It led me down a path where I was able to do and raise over 300 million in capital for real estate investments, do over 2 billion in transactions and sales, also build 2 8-figure companies. It was organic for me. It's who you are comes out of that process. And when people see you actually be able to make it through that failure, it's not going to be seamless, but they see who you truly are as an individual and they want to support you. They want to be in your orbit. So I created a consultancy, and within less than 3 years was out of that $1.8 million in debt and earning 7 figures plus a year again, because I went out and I started helping others. And I was doing very simple things like just helping them activate the Rolodex, the relationships that they already had. And that was one way that I use my relationships to pick up the pieces from massive failure, a lesson that I had to learn, call it whatever you want to call it. I said, all right, you've got a roofing supplier, right? Says, yeah, I got a roofing supplier. I want you to go to that roofing supplier and ask and just have a casual conversation with him. Ask how many projects he sees completely failing because the contractor who's working on the job has no idea what they're doing. And the simple formula, the favor formula, is you give people context on what you're trying to accomplish. You're specific on what you're trying to accomplish, and you make it easy for them to say yes. And then when they help you, or even before they help you, reciprocate that ask. Say, how can I help you in return? People are always willing to step up. The reason you have that personal advisory board is because when you're together, you pick up the phone and you call them, you have a group meeting, you can talk about how to build a better business. And the most successful people in the world, whether it's Zuckerberg or Richard Branson or Ken Griffin or whomever it may be, they all do the exact same thing. And the fact that they're billionaires doesn't preclude you from running a 7, 8-figure business for doing the exact same thing.
Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Mobilization Mindset. I am Scott Peper, founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding, and today we are going into a very interesting topic, one that I think is one of the most critical and most important things to master as an entrepreneur, and really anyone in life, is your relationships. Who are they with? And those key relationships that you have and how you foster them, I promise you, will make or break your success journey. They certainly can extend it and make it longer, and they definitely can shrink it. And today I have Jarrod Guy Randolph with me, who is an expert on doing exactly that. And not only is he going to talk about the successes he's had implementing this exact important process that he's mastered, but he's created a very specific and meaningful way to show you how to do it too. He is the creator of the Buying Favor Relationship Management Operating System. Jarrod, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Peper. Very happy to be here.
Me too, man. I love this topic. I had a mentor, I have mentors and coaches, and they told me early on that the relationships you build will make or break your success in life, personally and professionally. And you know what? Fast forward 25, 30 years in business and 50 years almost on this earth, I can tell you that's absolutely true. But I am fascinated with what you're doing, how it applies, and what brought you into that. And so maybe talk a little bit about just your background, what you've created, what you've done so far, and how you came up with this passion to start this new system to share with people.
Absolutely. So I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, mainly in the real estate business, and I also ended up in payment processing. But throughout the trajectory of my career, where I've failed miserably more than once, the thing that has always helped me propel to that next level wasn't marketing, wasn't a funnel, wasn't advertising. It was the relationships that were in my Rolodex and my ability to tap into them, activate them, and gain the resources that I needed in my business. It led me down a path where I was able to do and raise over 300 million in capital for real estate investments, do over 2 billion in transactions and sales, also build 2 8-figure companies. It was organic for me because all I did was activate my network. And I realized about a decade ago that I actually had a system that I was working off of, rinse and repeat, that was helping me achieve that success.
I love it. I love it. You know what's funny is you talk about relationships, and one of the things I found, and you talked about failures, is some of the greatest relationships, if not probably a gross majority of the top relationships that have been critical and important to me, have come from the failure process, or in failure, I built some of those relationships.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true for you too?
Well, when you fail at something and you have to recover, and as entrepreneurs, we've all failed at something. It's probably why we're all entrepreneurs, because we're really good at failing and fixing things. It's who you are comes out of that process. And when people see you actually be able to make it through that failure, it's not going to be seamless, but they see who you truly are as an individual and they want to support you. They want to be in your orbit. So it's something you have to learn to embrace, because it only builds a stronger you and actually makes you a much more proficient entrepreneur. So I look at it this way. In 2015, talk about failure, failed miserably, ended up couple real estate investments that didn't work out, buying a business I had no business buying, ended up about $1.8 million in debt. And I went to one of my mentors. He said, you know, everyone under the sun, they trust you, you have good relationships, you're great with business strategy. Why don't you help them build their businesses? So I created a consultancy, and within less than 3 years was out of that $1.8 million in debt and earning seven figures plus a year again, because I went out and I started helping others. And I was doing very simple things like just helping them activate the Rolodex, the relationships that they already had. And that was one way that I use my relationships to pick up the pieces from massive failure, a lesson that I had to learn, call it whatever you want to call it.
So at what point in the process did you find the initiative or the gumption to say, you know what, I got to put this into its own business, its own strategy? And you called it buying favor relationship management operating system. It's a very business like term in what I would
Yes.
say is a very normally a personal type, more touchy feely type scenario, like i.e., which relationships do I have and
Right.
who are they? So
Right.
how did you come to do that?
So I realized that as I was building my businesses or rebuilding my businesses, I kept going back to the same type of structure. So buying favor, if we break down the definition of buying is an exchange, favor is an act of kindness. So it's actually an exchange of kindness, but it's much more strategic than that, because your favor network, FAVOR, includes your friends, associates, vendors, organizations, and relatives. And there are 5 key people in each one of those categories that are your ride or dies. They'll do anything to help you. And the problem is we actually don't activate them the way that we should. We're not giving them clarity on the resources we need. We're not giving them clarity on where we are in our businesses and what we're actually looking for, connections, etc. If you learn to build those systems around that, those key 5 people in each of those categories will help you get and accomplish anything you need to accomplish at any point in time in your business. It's not about going out and finding new relationships. It's about getting super programmatic with how you activate those relationships. Take, for instance, there was a friend of mine actually from where I grew up in Pennsylvania, who is a builder. And he was growing his business. This was probably about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when I was still consulting. And I still do consulting now, but it was earlier on in the business because I started about 10 years ago. And he's like, I'm trying to get more business and I don't know what to do. And so we have really good relationships with vendors. That's the V in favor. Why don't you go out to some of your vendors and ask them if they know of any jobs that would be coming up? And he kind of looked at me dumbfounded. I said, all right, you've got a roofing supplier, right? He says, yeah, I got a roofing supplier. I want you to go to that roofing supplier and ask and just have a casual conversation with him. Ask how many projects he sees completely failing because the contractor who's working on the job has no idea what they're doing. He went, had a conversation with his buddy, came back. His buddy goes, oh, he probably sees 2 or 3 deals a month where he knows that the contractors are way over their skis, have no idea what they're doing. So what he did is He negotiated with his buddy. He told him what deals those were, whether or not you feel that's kosher. They were close enough friends. And then he would go to those owners and say, listen, I know your deals are falling apart. He even a couple times went to the contractors and says, I know you guys are over your skis. Let me help you complete this project. And from there, he blossomed some huge relationships and probably 3x'd his business over a 3-year period because he was just solving problems that were going to happen anyway. He didn't even realize that he had that relationship secure. He had been working with this guy for 10 years. Of course, they were buddies. His check's clear every time. He's absolutely going to help them. And everyone has relationships like that. They just don't know how to make the ask.
Yeah. What's the mistake that most people are doing with those relationships then? What are they talking to those relationships about? I
They're
have an
not
idea
talking.
of, yeah.
They're not talking to them. And that is the biggest mistake. It's almost like a fear and insecurity. So I run every 6 weeks, I do a cohort with about 30, 40 different entrepreneurs and executives. And it's amazing to see how many of them have this just block of reaching out to the people that are in their network, especially the ones that are closest to them, because they fear that they're going to be asking for something and the person might say no or feel like the relationship is only transactional. The truth is if you've built strong enough relationships with people and you like those people and you've given to them, you've poured into them, they want to help you in return. So the biggest mistake is not making the ask, especially when you know there's someone who could help you.
Yeah. I think what I assumed would happen is the same thing that I did, of course, is I'd wasted so much time trying to impress those people
Mm-hmm.
versus asking them for their help. And they're not looking to be impressed by me. They were more looking to help me anyway. And I think
Mm-hmm.
once you realize those key like ride or die people in your life, especially
Yep.
now that you can find them in 5 different categories, they're
Mm-hmm.
really more interested in helping you than they are listening to you tell them why you think you're great or why you are trying to impress them over some beer or dinner or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like how you flip that around, and allowing people to feel good about everybody wants to help somebody, for the most part, it feels good.
Let people be a part of your success. Give them the win. It is. I was talking to one of the companies that I consult for, and they're awesome. They have this big business where they work with veterans on helping them invest their VA benefits into real estate. It's called Military to Millionaire. And the gentleman who runs the organization was asking me a question about, oh, well, we want to get a certain certification. We'd have to go to the state level. And without getting too specific, I said, some political figures in the state. And he goes, yeah, I know X, Y, and Z. I said, well, even though you could make the call yourself, what you need to do is call those political figures and say, here's what I'm trying to do. What do you suggest? They might say, let me handle it for you. Or they might say, this is the person you need to talk to. But the reason you do that is even though you could have picked up the phone yourself, if you allow someone who has that type of power for it to be their win, they now feel obligated to help you.
Yeah.
And they want to help you because now that's something that they can now campaign on. I helped an organization with 700 veterans get XYZ certification so those veterans can invest in real estate and build wealth for their families. That person's indebted to you, whether or not they're actually indebted to you, but they're going to feel indebted to you for the rest of their lives because you've given them something that is tangible that they can campaign on.
Yeah.
But they want to be part of that success, and you have to allow the people in your network to be part of that success. And the simple formula, the favor formula, is you give people context on what you're trying to accomplish. You're specific on what you're trying to accomplish, and you make it easy for them to say yes. And then when they help you, or even before they help you, reciprocate that ask. Say, how can I help you in return? People are always willing to step up.
Yeah, and what I was going to point out, if as you just heard, as anyone's listening that's heard that, you didn't go to that person and say, "Can you do this for me?" And they say, "What?" And then you explain it to them. You
Right.
explained what you're trying to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
and ask their suggestions on how to best execute it. Now they'll either give you an answer that you can now go do yourself,
Right.
or they may take it on, like you said, because there's
Right.
some benefit to them, and then them helping you actually helps them too.
But either way, they're part of your win. They're part
Yeah.
of your success. And your community of people want to be part of your win and part of your success. And in truth, funnily enough, I get a lot of who are in my cohorts. a lot of executives who are not extroverts, they're more introverted, and they get a bit of anxiety or insecurity around going out to people making ask. But when we actually work through and we sit down and we look at their favor network and they go, oh, yeah, I had a beer with him last week. I know her. We play golf together, X, Y, and Z. You realize you've got this consortium of people that you can just start having real conversations with that aren't threatening, aren't taking you out of your comfort zone. You're not on some big stage pitching someone. You're just having authentic conversations.
Yeah, I think one thing to distinguish between what you said there too is whether you think you're introverted or you think you're extroverted or you are or not, here's the reality of life is you need to learn how to be an extrovert when you need to be an extrovert, regardless of whether you're an introvert, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, because all you're going to
Exactly.
do is things that are uncomfortable. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I think you're right. If you don't realize what you need to say or do or how to go about doing it or finding a way to do it or get out of your comfort zone, I think too often people label themselves as one or the other. And the reality is like we all have a bias towards one or the other, but it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yep. It's interesting that you say that because one of the gentlemen I worked with in Massachusetts was very successful, had a home service business, HVAC business, and he was always nervous to get in front of people, even people that he knew, to have conversations. And one of the ways I've activated my network in a massive way is breaking bread, literally having dinner with the right people and having the right conversation. So I call it break bread to break through. And what I had convinced him to do was to put together a dinner with some of the local business owners who he already collaborates and works with and bring their spouses. And so what he did, he co-hosted a dinner at a local restaurant with his wife because she was much more of the extrovert. And they ended up doing a couple $1 million over the next 2 years in business through that table alone. And then it's something that got consistent doing. And after he felt comfortable doing, he started doing his own luncheons, his own dinners with other service providers and having kind of like an annual meeting that he would host because he just had to get over that initial fear of doing something. So he brought in a co-host, he brought in his wife to help him execute on that. These are the key small things that the biggest elite players in the world do. So we've all read the book Think and Grow Rich, or we've heard of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and everybody touts how amazing it is about mindset. But the truth is, if you read the underlying two key factors of that book, it's not mindset. It's two things. It's one, having a mini mastermind. So your small group of 3 to 5 people who help you build your business and your success. And two is you have this coterie, this small group of people that you go to collaborate, who are your joint venture partners, that when you work together, you share each other's list, you do co-marketing, whatever it is, you can grow your business exponentially. And whether it was Rockefeller, Carnegie, all the examples that he gives you within those books, they all did exactly that. If you listen to the story, it's the connectivity of the people that is why they built these massive businesses. It wasn't the marketing and sales aspect.
No.
Don't get me wrong, marketing and sales are huge and important. But if you really want to accelerate, especially if you're already a 7, 8 figure entrepreneur, you have to learn to activate your network.
Yeah, no doubt. And in that book too, I think which is goes right in line with what you're talking about and finding the right 5 people. And then when you find those and identify those 5 people in each category, what are you going to ask them? How are you going to approach them? The other
So,
thing from that book, as I say, the other thing from that book I think is critical, and I want to hear your opinion on it, that I think would be number 3, if not in the 3 that you'd be the additional, is you got to get quiet and think. Like that's where your answers are going to come for those. If you're just all running around and I got these 5 people and what are the 5 questions and you just go ask them, you got to think like in that quiet consultation time with your thoughts and your own mentorship group. And in that book, he talks about how he sat at that table with some of the most elite people in the world who were not at that table. They were just there at the table in his mind while he thought and meditated and prayed on it. And so I think that's a key piece to distinguish. So everyone's not just hustle and bustle and on the grind. And now I'm going to find these questions, Jarrod, what are the 5 questions I ask them when I get there? Those
right.
questions will come to you in your quiet time.
Right. One thing that I've learned, I was always about the grind. Here's my challenge with the grind. If you grind a stone constantly every day, what happens? It turns to dust. So there's only so much grinding you can do. And it is a bit of a privileged stance. I will give that disclosure, but finding that quiet time to just stop, even if it's at 30 minutes a day, you have to do it and literally just sit alone and think. If you pray, pray to God. I pray to God because there's so much guidance that I get when I have that silent time. You have to find the time to clear the space, focus your energy so the message will come to you. And then when you do get in the room with those people, because everyone should have a personal advisory board, that personal advisory board, you've got your social navigator, you've got your operations expert, your finance expert, your legal and compliance expert, and your capital raiser. And your legal and compliance expert might be the attorney that you work with. Your operations person could be someone on your team. You really kind of want to keep it outside of your team. You want somebody who understands operations. By way of example, that team, ask them what you should be asking. Ask them what you should be thinking about in your business. Ask them what hurdles you might be facing based on what you're doing. You don't always have to have the right question. You definitely don't have to have the right answer. The reason you have that personal advisory board is because when you're together, you pick up the phone and you call them, you have a group meeting, you can talk about how to build a better business. And the most successful people in the world, whether it's Zuckerberg or Richard Branson or Ken Griffin or whomever it may be, they all do the exact same thing. And the fact that they're billionaires doesn't preclude you from running a 7, 8 figure business for doing the exact same thing.
It's true. Nobody's that special. Everybody's the same. When you meet these folks, everybody's the same natural people, and that you can do anything that anyone else has done if you do the same exact things they did for the same amount of time or longer. That's it. Sometimes you can get away with it doing it shorter too, but everybody's able to do anything they really want to do at the end of the day. It's just, what are you willing to sacrifice for it?
Exactly.
So, question for you. And I was thinking about this as I was going through our interview here, and I wanted to think about things to bring up. And as we talk about small businesses, big businesses, what do you think the biggest misconception people have about building these powerful relationships in business, especially as they see like a Richard Branson or an Elon Musk or someone in the news or a political figure, and they're thinking this through? What's the truth that entrepreneurs really need to hear instead about building these big business relationships? What really happens? What's the truth?
A lot of entrepreneurs, and I see this all the time that I work with, come and say, well, I feel like I'm using the person. And we talked about this earlier. I feel like it's strictly transactional. Everything is transactional. The truth is everything is transactional, even though it might be guised as I'm going to give $1 million to charity and I don't even want my name on the marquee. It's just going to make me feel good. Well, everything is ultimately self-serving. And a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs feel like, well, I have to do it on my own. And if I go ask this person for help, then I'm showing weakness. That's absolutely not true. Number one, no one is self-made. It's not a real thing. It doesn't exist. Stop saying it. You were made by a man and a woman. So let's start there. So you weren't self-made. Second, on your journey, if somebody gave you words of encouragement or words of discouragement, they told you at that time what you needed to hear to drive you to that next level of success. So you actually have to thank them and realize that they were part of your journey and critical for your journey. So you go through and we kind of meander and everything is loosey-goosey. We're mavericks and renegades when it comes to building a business. When if you really step back and look, you realize that you've built the business based on the relationships that you have, because you only be able to build a business where you're selling a product or a service because you're selling it to a person. Why not pick the people that you actually want to be super strategic, super focused on, and work with them? And it's not one-sided. That's also what people forget. You can also be in service and have to be in service to that person. So I look at it this way. The first law of buying favor is give, and then you earn the right to make an ask. So This happened to me recently. And as much as I want to tell you who this very famous, really cool author is, I can't say his name yet. But I had a gentleman who came. I still run a dinner series every single month. We do at least one or two dinners a month in New York City. And I have a lot of high profile people who come to the dinners. And for three of my dinners, I had this guy come. He's part of a big multi-billion-dollar family office. And we kind of built a relationship, and he was there because one of my co-hosts brought him in, and he's really been interacting. He randomly emails me one day and says, "Hey, I have a friend coming into town. He is a New York Times best-selling author, and his name is X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, "Oh my God, dude." He's like, "Would you want to do a dinner and him be your headliner?" After we do the dinner, I'll be able to say his name, by the way. And him be your headliner. I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. The cool thing is that he came to my dinners. We gave to him, we connected him with great people. We gave him great content and information. I didn't even have to make the ask. He came to me and said, "I want to support you and help you because you've added so much value to me." If we learn to think of it that way, that let me add value to the core people that I actually like, that are in my favor network first, hands down, they'll pick up the phone and call and say, "Hey, I know what you're working on. You need to meet this person." They're going to be able to help you move to that next level.
Yeah, 100%. You're so right. For those of folks that love to read books that grasp onto this concept, there's a great one called The Go-Giver that would like break this down pretty simple. It's probably on your shelf there.
Yeah.
You and I have talked a lot about books, and I'm almost like someone who's shared reading lists amongst us in the ether out because every time I mention a book to you, you've either read it and or I've heard about it, and same vice versa. One of the things I think is critical for people to understand, especially when you're thinking about talking to someone that might not, that you might feel like you're beneath them or over, they're over. What could I possibly offer them?
Mhm.
A lot of the folks that have a lot of things or have achieved a lot of things, the best thing you can offer them is the same best thing you can offer everyone. And it's just your genuineness. Like
Mhm.
there's so many people going at folks that are trying to get something, want something in return. And look, a lot of those folks can see it coming 100 miles away because they have so many reps at seeing people trying to use them or take advantage of them or both. And if you can really just go at and be genuine about how can I help you and really mean it, and
Mhm.
you'll be surprised at what you could do to help you. There's a lot of things you could probably do. And that genuineness alone will carry you forward. Plus, it's a lot easier to be genuine than it is to try to figure out what you think they want to hear because you're never going to be right. And it won't come off genuine, and then you're shot.
You also have to realize, and it's amazing to me how many prominent people that I meet in my line of work who go, "No, people don't come and ask me for advice. They don't ask me for my time. I guess they're afraid to do it." And the truth is they don't. Some of the most successful people out there, and I'm not talking about the Gary V's and Alex Hermosis of the world. Somebody's constantly knocking on the door. I'm talking about the local guy who's literally built an $80 million empire.
Mhm.
No one picks up the phone and calls him. And you know what they want? They don't need anything financially. They want to pass on what they've learned and the knowledge they had. And if you're willing to have the conversation with them, with that successful business owner that's in their 60s and 70s and has built 8, 9 figure business, guess what? A lot of times they'll give you the coffee, they'll give you the steak dinner, they'll go play golf with you because that's what they can now give the world.
Mhm.
You also start to change the older that you get, and your mindset starts to change where you want to pay it forward. Those people are readily available. And I actually got this young guy, and I say young guy, he's in his early 30s. He did what I did back in the day when I was building my career first. It was called the FedEx theory. What I would do is if there was a major executive or somebody and it didn't always work, but maybe 20% of the time, 2 out of 10 it worked, I would send literally a FedEx letter that said, "My name is Jarrod Guy Randolph. I've been following what you do. I've read your book. How you've grown your company over the last XYZ years is absolutely amazing. Would you have time to grab a coffee with me? I'd like to pick your brain about who you had to be, the mindset that you have, the techniques that you put into place to build your business, because I think I can learn from you." Signed, Jarrod Guy Randolph. And again, 2 or 3 out of 10 would call me, and like major people of major organizations that you'd think, "Wait, dude, how did that happen?" It happened because I actually took the time and effort to reach out to them, and they are happy to help you. It is about community. It's about building. It's about putting and creating these opportunities to have people like that in your network.
Yeah. And I would say if you do get those opportunities, don't try to impress them. Just be humble and ask your questions in a thoughtful, meaningful way,
Hmm. What
concisely,
and
concisely.
one of the best questions are, it's like there's a guy out on the internet. I can never remember his name, but it's called A School of Hard Knocks. And he goes around, he started by asking people who were getting out of expensive cars what their job was, what they did to make money. Now he's doing the major figures in the world who he's, organically coming up on when they're coming out of a hotel or their car, but it's very staged. And he asked them questions about their business and their success. They're good questions. They're not great questions. Like, don't ask Mark Cuban, if you lost everything tomorrow, what would you do to restart your business? No, it's Mark Cuban. If you lost everything tomorrow, who would you go to? Who would be your key resources to help you rebuild, restructure your business? Or who is someone you can leverage to create an opportunity for you to earn money? When you're talking to these people, ask them better questions. We have something great today called ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT what to ask a person if you know that you're going to meet someone of prominence. And again, to your point, don't try to impress them. Be a regular person. Be like, I read your biography. I know your track record. I'm where you were 20 years ago, but I see where you are today. And I'm really struggling with what are my next best steps. What would you advise somebody in my position at 40 years old and you're now 65 years old? What would you advise your 40-year-old to self to do so you can skip some of the areas that you faltered in over the last 25 years to accelerate your success?
Yeah.
They're going to sit back and be like, that's a good question, and have a real substantive conversation with you.
Yeah. Like, what mistakes am I about to make that I don't even know yet? And how can you help me see them and avoid them? These have been the best pieces of advice I've ever gathered, or if someone's come to me and I didn't ask the question necessarily, someone might have offered to me, or maybe I asked it a different way. But if I'm going to someone trying to get somewhere from where I'm at now to where I'm going, that's exactly what I'm going to ask them. How does the road open up and I don't see it and I fall down? Like, how do you keep me from not doing that?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's where all the juice is. So let's think about it. There's a lot of construction contractors listening to this. You gave an excellent roofing example earlier. If you were going to give another example or some
Mhm.
guidance to a commercial subcontractor who's taken their journey, they're focusing on trying to grow their business. They've taken on 2, 3 crews. They're doing 4 or 5 bigger jobs. They're growing. They could be anywhere between, a few $1,000,000 up to $70 million, and they're trying to expand or just hold on. How can they use this concept of favor and
Mhm.
the relationships to best benefit themselves today?
So one thing that I've actually been seeing, and we all hear about the world of roll-ups and what's happening, but funnily enough, I find that contractors don't actually look at the opportunities that they have to potentially do roll-ups. So you don't have to build your company just to sell to a private equity fund or whatever you're building it towards. You could start to build your company by saying to other contractors that do you want to sell your company? Are you tired of doing this? Do you want to partner within the business within our businesses to help each other grow? Be careful with partnerships. There's a lot of nuance in that. Just have a really good attorney to make sure everybody is set up going into the partnership. I'm not a legal expert, but I'm just giving that advice. But there's things that you can do right now within your industry, within your market or region, where you strictly, literally just go out to people and say, hey, are you looking for an acquisition opportunity? Because the good thing is with SBA financing, and you're already in the industry and an expert, you can get 100% financing to buy somebody's business. So that's one organic growth strategy that you can do. The other one, which they really miss, is they've got clients who they have contracts with or they've worked with for years, and they haven't literally said to that client, hey, Susan, you own these 3 buildings, and we've been doing your roofing for the last 5 years, and we've had a really strong relationship. I'm looking to grow my business. Are there 2 to 3 friends who are also commercial property owners in this region that you could refer me to who could use my services? If you've done a good job for her, she's absolutely going to give you, and again, be specific, 2 to 3 people in XYZ region that we could potentially speak with about offering our services. They'll be happy to do it.
I love it. All right. So the show is called The Mobilization Mindset. So thinking through this, what is the single best mindset shift someone can make? Listening to this episode, all the nuggets out of it, they can replay it and play it back again 100 times and hear them all. But at the end of the day, if they don't, what is the one mindset shift they can make right now to move in the right direction for what we've been discussing today, which is relationships?
We can all stop right now today meeting anyone new. We have more than enough in our Rolodex, in our contact list, on our phones, that if we connect the dots looking backwards through those relationships that are already hot or warm and established relationships, that we could 10x our businesses over the next year just by tapping into our favorite network.
I love that. It's true too, by the way. It's so true.
Yeah, man.
Jarrod, how do people find you? What if they've heard this, they're so inspired, and they're like, I got to talk to this guy myself?
The best two ways to reach out to me is first my email, which is Jarrod, Jarrod, at buyingfavor.co, or find me on Instagram, Jarrod, Jarrod _Guy, GUY. Send me a DM. I'd be happy to chat. Send you some information. We also have some free resources that will help you with building your favorite network, and I'd love to connect.
I love it, man. Guys, let's give Jarrod a follow and a share. If you're interested in talking to him, please reach out. You can also find us on LinkedIn. You can collect all of these things in the show notes wherever you catch your favorite podcast episodes or where you're listening to this now. And of course, you can find us at mobilizationfunding.com or on our YouTube channel at Mobilization Funding, where you can also see the live video of this if you're just listening. Jarrod, I appreciate you, man. And thank you for coming on the show, sharing your knowledge. And I think what you're onto here is something that, quite frankly, I don't hear a lot of people talking about. So I'm excited for you. And anything I can do to help you with this, you know where to find me. And hopefully this gets the party started in a meaningful way. And I think you're going to I know you're going to find folks interested, and I know you give them a ton of value. So great
Pleasure,
job,
brother.
man.
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody, have a great week, and may God bless you.